The Vagabond Archetype, created, directed, and presented by Reverend Dikki Jo Mullen. In this video, Dr. Mullen will discuss vagabonds and that vagabond part of each of us to be always roaming and searching the world.
This is astrologer Dikki Jo Mullen in Orlando, Florida, my home base, but coming to you with some information about the vagabond within all of us. Hobos, tramps, bums, a glimpse into the magic of this uniquely American subculture has been called Bohemia, and there are whole groups of people who live in a parallel world part-time of Bohemia. Now you might think these are all street people, but Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas, actor and folk singer Burl Ives, novelists Jack London and Ernest Hemingway, British World War II poet W.H. Davis, and television personality Art Linkletter all went through phases of being homesick for their freedom, or knights of the road, as they were wont to explain. Mostly young men, all of them would ride the rails, ride on trains for travel and adventure. And forthcoming, these are just a few of the notables who were at one time hobos. During an 80-year period, from shortly after the Civil War through the Great Depression and World War II, penniless wanderers would take to hopping freight trains, and during hard times their ranks swelled to make up 0.05% of the U.S. population, and this would add up to about 700,000 souls. Some were trying to find their way home, others were looking for work, still others were seeking better luck and looking for some personal or private dream to be fulfilled. The vagabonds, called hobos, tramps, and bums, were lumped together by those living a more settled and conventional life. However, within their own ranks, there's great distinction and contrast between all of them. A hobo would travel in order to work, skillfully earning 3 hots and a cot, while pursuing a life free of responsibilities and roots. Many hobos looked upon the lifestyle as an extended adventure before returning to school, a profession, or family ties. Hobos considered themselves gentlemen. A tramp would be snobbish, a brilliant intellectual, actually, who traveled but preferred to live by his wits. A tramp wouldn't work unless absolutely forced to. Tramps and hobos travel to see and observe life. Of the whole group, the lowest is the bum, though. This is lazy, drunken bum, alcoholics, usually seek handouts, and would only work or move when forced to by the weather or external circumstances. Moving on has always been a dangerous lifestyle, though, whether one is a hobo, tramp, or bum. Like a steam engine building momentum, many heeded the call, and usually when the rules were too hard to take, a dream of conventional conformity became undesirable, a deep disappointment would strike, a certain type of person would be drawn to find comfort and peace of mind in seeking new horizons and new adventures. Survival depended upon developing the skill to ride under or on railroad freight cars. Railroad security officers, often called bulls, would beat or even kill any vagabonds they could catch up with. While some citizens were helpful and quite friendly, others were often very hostile. Hobos developed a series of marks drawn with chalk like stick figures, and before they had to get moving on, as they really couldn't stay put, it was in their blood to keep moving, they would leave a kind of travel journal, a secret vocabulary or mark that would go unnoticed by the uninitiated. These would let those in their wake follow to know what to expect at each stop. These are some of the most well-known hobo markings. Stay here would be a circle. Leave quickly would be two train tracks going together. Here you get what you want might be a heart with an arrow through it. A circle with a line drawn through it could be danger. Other stick figures would mean sucker, an easy catch. A bad-tempered man lives here. A good woman lives here. A mother alone with daughters lives here. Bypass this place, risk of arrest. Unpleasant people with bad dogs. Camp here. Good place for food and money. This is a piece of hobo art that my parents got right after they were first married. Oh, I'm dating myself here. They were married in 1940. And that was right around World War II, and there were quite a few hobos. This is a plain liquor bottle filled with little pieces of wood art. And the hobo would make these with pieces of wire that were made into a tool and actually did the work inside the bottle, which just amazes me the more I study it. And each of these little tools, there's a sledgehammer, a pickaxe, a saw, has a message on it. One message says not made in Germany, another says not made in Japan, another says in God we trust. And it's just Sawbucks is another one, another message, and it just, these pieces of hobo art are quite collectible now. My mother said they paid $1 for it and hesitated, but the hobo looks so hungry that they bought it, and it's an awful lot of work for $1, isn't it? But then that went further in 1940 than it might now. And then also, hobo nickels you can find at numismatic shows sometimes, and these are nickels that the hobo would meticulously scratch to create a design. It might be of a Native American, it might be of an animal like a wolf, or a face. A lot of them were self-portraits, and these would be traded for a place to stay or for a meal perhaps. The word hobo was first coined in the 19th century, and the term is uncertain of origin, but some linguists say it came from hoboy, signifying a migratory laborer. Others cite the Latin words homo bonus, which means a good man, and other sources say it's an abbreviation for homeward bound. For more than a century, beginning on August 22nd, 1990, the small farming town of Britt, Iowa, has been the kindest and most accommodating place for these misunderstood and abused hobo people to safely congregate. And to this day, that's when the community attends the annual hobo convention. Once a year, hobos and those who admire them and are fans of them gather together to exchange stories and celebrate life on the road or moving on. Then they feel the call to go. A jungle is the name given to the hobo camp. This is established in Britt, Iowa now, and there's a permanent museum there of hobo art, writings, and photographs. Around a campfire, the king and queen, ever since 1946, there's been a queen on the road, equal opportunity, would be elected. Former kings and queens of the hobos tell of relishing the experience. They appreciated being treated like royalty, for the day at least, and a new name for the road has traditionally been an important part of the hobo identity. It's kind of like hiking the Appalachian Trail. A lot of hikers will have a trail name. Some famous names among hobo royalty include Cannonball Eddie, Slow Motion Shorty, Highway Johnny, Steam Train Maury, Scoop Shovel Scotty, Pennsylvania Kid, Grandpa Dudley, Inkman, Tuck, he was the most recently elected king of the hobos, Polly Ellen Pep was the first hobo queen, and lately there's been Boxcar Myrtle and also Mama Joe and Cinderbox Cindy and Minneapolis Jewel. Wouldn't you like to meet all of them around the campfire? I think I would, but only briefly. Former and current hobos from all over do gather each August for a couple of weeks in Iowa to enjoy the company of their brothers and sisters, because it's a unique state of mind to follow this transient path. And again, they're very distinct from the street people that we might see. With this unique lifestyle today existing, there are about 500 true hobos remaining. Even the mayor of Britt discourages riding the rails. Trains have changed too much in the modern world, and it's too dangerous, not to say illegal. But a lot of the convention goers arrive in campers, motorcycles, and there are some new wanderers joining the ranks of the older retired hobos, and the traditions are very much alive. Stray Cat is one of the younger hobos, and she became a queen, and she has been hopping the trains for at least 9 years without any definite destination in mind. Stretch still rides the train rails and has been for 25 years, and there are numerous friends of hobos dedicated to preserving the culture, living spontaneously, choosing freedom, escaping the ruts of civilization, and yet being roadworthy and self-reliant is at the core of the hobo and into the tramp's lifestyle. The bum, of course, doesn't have a legacy and is in sort of a different class. Intricate whittlings from a single piece of wood, like mine, are part of the legacy. Balls in a wooden cage. And then also storytelling and poetry relate to, as well as the buffalo nickels. Usually buffalo nickels were carved to make works of art. Clowns, birds, four-leaf clovers, skulls, model trains, Roman emperors are all some that have been seen. Originally, the creations again were bartered for food and lodging. Hobo Adman, who by day is a respectable professional man and homeowner named Todd Waters, recently took his 20-year-old daughter, Alexis, along on a journey. Adam's wife understands his occasional need for freedom, and when the rails get warm and are rich with the smell of creosote each spring, she knows Adman must answer the call. Alexis reflected upon this idea of returning home, to the home she never knew, sleeping in the woods without a cell phone or a tent. What does it follow like to be your own cup of mulligan stew at dinner? A hobo meal, called a mulligan stew, is a single pot over a campfire. It might include vegetables, maybe small game. I know it's an Irish dish too. Maybe a lot of hobos are Irish, that's a thought. But I know that the mulligan stew is usually the campfire meal. Some of the terms, hobos have their own special vocabulary. Accommodation car is a caboose. A banjo is a frying pan. A barnacle is a hobo who stays at one job for over a year, like a barnacle on a ship. A beachcomber is a hobo who likes seaports and beaches. A bindle is that bundle that's wrapped up in, say, a bandana. That's what a hobo needs for his toothbrush or whatever to carry on a stick over his shoulder. A bindle staff is a hobo, tramp, or bum who steals from other hobos. A beau is the way one hobo might refer to another, like some people call someone bro or buddy. Boil up is to get clean and to shed all the lice and dirt in your clothes and get them clean in boiling water. A bone polisher is a dog that accompanies a hobo. A boneyard is a graveyard. California blankets are newspapers that are used for bedding on the road. Calling in is getting warm and cooking mulligan stew over another's campfire. Chuck-a-dummy is pretending to faint in order to get handouts from the muggles out there. Cover with the moon is to sleep out in the open. Dogging it in is to ride a Greyhound bus for a while. And a flop is a cheap hotel. That's where the phrase flop house comes from. Glad rags are nice clothing. Graybacks are lice. And grease the track, oh, this is the worst one, is to be run over by a train. So this is wishing everyone to find your own personal freedom and honor the vagabond within, whether you actually live the lifestyle of a hobo or not. There's something kind of intriguing and fascinating about it, isn't there? Oh, there is for some of us. Maybe that's the annual vacation. This is astrologer and parapsychologist Dikki Jo Mullen riding the rails from Orlando, Florida.